Okay, welcome to question number 4, which is development dilemmas. And this is all about the contrasting levels of development around the world, why some countries struggle to develop, using Malawi as your example, why development varies within countries, Maharashtra versus Bihar, and then looking at solutions or projects that can aid development. So we're going to start off with thinking about how we measure development. We have GDP, we have literacy rate, we have birth rate, death rate, infant mortality rate, life expectancy, amongst others. And your important one is HDI, which is the Human Development Index, and it includes life expectancy, literacy rate and GDP. It goes on a scale of 0 to 9, where 9 is highly developed, and the closer the number is to 0, it is less developed. Okay, so we would have a score in the region of, it goes to 1, of 0.9. Sorry about that, it goes to 1, 0 to 1, and we would have a score of about 0.9. GDP is the total sum of goods and services produced by a country per year divided by the number of people. So they're the key development indicators that you need to be aware of. Now, there was a chap called Roscoes, and he did a model. It's called his Modernization theory, and he believed that all countries went through 5 phases of development, starting as traditional society. So this would be somewhere like the Amerindians in the Amazon rainforest. Then you have your pre-takeoff time, which is when countries are starting to maybe sell crops abroad. So it might be somewhere like Kenya that sells beans and flowers. The money from that is then used to invest in manufacturing, and that's when you hit the takeoff time. So that would be a country like China, Vietnam, India. Then there is the drive to maturity as a country starts to really develop, somewhere like Mexico perhaps, or Brazil, those sort of countries that are more developed but not quite as our standard. And up here you have the age of mass consumption, and at this time, this is when people are wealthy, they can afford luxury goods. This might be somewhere like the UK. Okay, you'll get a question such as describe Roscoe's modernization theory. You would not be expected to know all of the various 5 stages. You'd be expected to maybe talk about 2 of those. So why do countries, or some countries, get stuck or not developed? Be careful how they ask this. They might ask you for a named developing country in sub-Saharan Africa, describe its recent economic development. Or they might be really clear and mention something about the barriers to development. And most of you are really secure on this. There are 2 main barriers. One is being landlocked, and you should be thinking about Malawi. So if you're landlocked, you can't get to the coast, so you have to take all your exports via a train line. This is in the case of Malawi, which makes exporting really slow, really expensive, and it is a barrier to development. You might have to cross through another country. So it prevents or makes trade very difficult. The other one is the impact of disease, in this case HIV and AIDS, and this means people cannot work. And in the case of Malawi, 20% of adults are HIV positive, so that is a large proportion of your active population that cannot work. The third thing for you higher people is the idea of the terms of trade. Now, often less developed countries are locked in unfavourable trade agreements. And what this means is they may not be able to sell their exports or export to another country unless they pay tariffs, and that will make their exports more expensive and make it far more difficult for them to compete in the global market. The World Trade Organization, for example, from our previous topic, tries to make these terms of trade fairer, but unfortunately many countries like Malawi are locked in these unfavourable trade agreements. Okay, so why does development vary within a country? So why are urban areas more developed than rural areas? So here we're going to India, and you learnt about Maharashtra and Bihar. Bihar, there you go, that make laugh. And Bihar is the poor rural periphery. Half the people here live below the poverty line. They are trapped in the cycle of poverty because many are subsistence farmers who only grow enough food for themselves. They can't take anything to market to earn a little bit of extra money. Therefore, they can't invest in making their farm more profitable or more efficient, and therefore they're constantly locked in that cycle of poverty. It is very difficult to escape. Furthermore, Bihar is quite isolated. It's a long way from the coast, so it's not really going to be an attractive proposition for an investor. Maharashtra, on the other hand, and the capital is Mumbai, is the location of the port. There is lots of IT and call centres here. Lots of factories. In fact, half the people who work in factories work in textile factories, so making clothes. It's also the location of Bollywood. So why does the urban core often develop faster, or it develops more quickly compared to rural areas? Well, it's the multiplier effect, and this is where one investment leads to another. There's a multiplier effect, and it all started with the port. Right, we're nearly at the end of this topic. So the last thing they will ask you about is top-down versus bottom-up development projects. So you can either use dams versus pumpkin tanks, or you could use the HYV rice, which was the green revolution, versus the biogas plant. Now, bottom-up projects have something in common. They're all built by locals using local materials. They're cheap and easy to build. They change lives. A pumpkin tank will change a life because somebody won't have to go and collect water. There'll be less disease, more time for other things. A biogas plant will change lives because girls and women won't have to spend ages collecting firewood. They won't get damaged eyes or unhealthy lungs by cooking over open fires. They will have time to go to school or time to maybe work, and therefore their lives will improve. These are bottom-up developments because they start at the bottom with all the people in the villages. Okay, they're at the bottom of the hierarchy. Dams and HYV, rice, the Green Revolution are all from the top, i.e. from the government. They're large scale and expensive, and not everybody will benefit from them. There will be some winners, but there will also be some losers. The winners are probably normally the rich landowners, the ones who can afford the HYV rice, the ones that can afford the irrigation, they can afford to invest in pumps for irrigation. But the losers will be still those poor landowners, the ones who can't afford irrigation, the ones that are forced to leave their land and move away due to the dam being built and flooding land the ones who can't afford the GM crops, the ones who can't afford the fertilizers and can't afford the pesticides. So this, they will ask you about how top-down development projects will affect different groups of people. Okay, so the villagers, if it's a dam, the villagers can't afford the electricity, so who's going to benefit from this big dam and this HEP that's generated? Well, the people in Mumbai, the people in the cities, the people in the rich urban cores, the people in the poor rural periphery, the people in Bihar, they won't benefit from these kind of top-down development projects, but they will benefit from things like pumpkin tanks or biogas plants. And that, my friends, is development dilemmas in a nutshell.